mind of storming the capital in India, thousands of farmers protesting agricultural reforms broke away from the approved route. Tractors were used to bust through police roadblocks, crowds overwhelming police as they took over the centuries-old Red Fort. After months of camping out on the outskirts, protesters took their grievances to the center of the capital city. The great vaccine grab. States across the country scrambling for more doses as supplies run out. Thousands of appointments forced to be canceled as the White House announces hundreds of millions of doses by this summer. But how will they be distributed as concerns grow over disproportionate availability? And the debate over who should be first or last in line to get the vaccine. The recommendation that prisoners be among the first to get the vaccine, but many states are prioritizing others before prisoners. An in-depth look at the issue, just as President Biden issues an executive order today aimed directly at the private prison system. Showdown in the Senate over the impeachment of a former president. Republicans call it unconstitutional. Democrats argue it would be unconstitutional not to. Will enough senators sworn in today vote to convict Donald Trump after hearing the case? The latest travel restrictions causing confusion for some travelers. The Point Guy joins us to tell us how to navigate the latest landscape. How can Americans who are abroad identify somewhere that is safe and reliable to get a COVID test? And what are their options if they do test positive?
So that's the million-dollar question right now.
And how the fitness world is adapting to pandemic life, getting creative with how and where they're working out to keep their businesses in good shape.
I didn't sign up to be a yoga teacher to do this on camera, but now this is the reality we're living in.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Well, a new milestone tonight, 100 million. It was just over a year ago that Wuhan reported its first cluster of pneumonia-like cases in China. It was later identified as a new coronavirus. And fast forward 1 year and 1 month, and now the worldwide tally of infections has now eclipsed 100 million mark. For some perspective, the biggest stadium in the U.S. is the Big House in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It seats roughly 107,000 people. Well, it would take more than 930 big houses to fit every person who has tested positive for COVID-19. And 1 in 4 of those positive tests are right here in the U.S. There are now confirmed cases in every county in America. Late today, the Biden administration announced additional vaccine commitments from Moderna and Pfizer. Each company has pledged an additional 100 million doses of the vaccine. So what does this mean for the vaccine timeline? And when might the average American get a shot? Our Stephanie Ramos leads us off.
After weeks of frustration over a slow vaccine rollout and desperate calls for more supply, the president saying help is on the way.
We will both increase the supply in the short term by more than 15%. And give our states and local partners more certainty about when the deliveries will arrive.
The Biden administration now promising to buy an extra 100 million doses of both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines for a total of 600 million, enough to vaccinate 300 million Americans by the end of this summer.
We expect these additional 200 million doses to be delivered this summer, and that increases the total vaccine order in the United States by 50%. From 400 million order to 600 million.
The president confirming vaccine supply will ramp up as expected to 10 million doses a week and increase from there. Starting next week, another 1.4 million doses going out.
We'll ensure that states, tribes, and territories will now always have a reliable 3-week forecast and what the supply they're going to get. This is going to help make sure governors, mayors, and local leaders have greater certainty around supply so they can carry out their plans to vaccinate as many people as possible.
Late today, New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo reacting to the president's plan.
We're getting about 16 to 17% more. So at least now we can do a schedule for 3 weeks, and we can schedule appointments and start to run on an efficient basis rather than what's been going on.
Millions are already facing long waits, a maze of busy websites, and jammed phone lines.
Trying to get a COVID shot for my 93-year-old father.
Art Silk in Colorado taking to the streets to ask for help finding a vaccine for his father, a 93-year-old World War II veteran.
The pandemic is one thing, it's bad. But the way this thing is being handled is terrible.
His kids finally landing an appointment by searching online in the middle of the night. More than 23 million of the vaccines have been administered, but just under 3.5 million people have received both doses. Liz Scott in Arizona can't schedule a second dose for her parents who are over 75 with underlying health conditions.
There is nothing. I have looked every day at every location, and there is not an appointment available. This is a life or death situation. They have compromised immune systems.
And in some of the hardest hit communities, fewer vaccinations. Black and Latino Americans are nearly 3 times more likely to die of COVID-19. And new data from 16 states revealing blacks are often 2 to 3 times less likely to be vaccinated.
Many people don't have a car to drive to a high volume vaccination center. So where do they go if they don't have a personal or primary care physician? And the answer in many cases is there's nowhere to go.
So difficulty not just with quantity, but also transportation in order to be able to get the vaccine shot. Stephanie Ramos joins us now from a MetLife Stadium, which has now been turned into a mass vaccination site, but today closed down because of vaccine shortages. Stephanie, despite all the concerns over low supply, there was a positive update today when it comes to the possibility of opening schools back up. What's the latest on that?
Absolutely. This news making parents just across the country really excited. So there's this new CDC report that said they looked at 17 schools where masks were worn and social distancing rules were followed. And even though there was community spread of the virus at the time, researchers found that there wasn't much spread of the virus in school when those precautions were followed, Lindsay.
Really positive news there. Stephanie Ramos, our thanks to you. Now to the impeachment trial of former President Trump. Senators were sworn in today, but the trial will not start until February 9th. But a vote forced by a Republican senator today may have given an indication of where things stand. And we have some late breaking news about a health scare tonight for the senator who's expected to preside over this trial. Our Rachel Scott is in Washington with more.
Tonight, the senator presiding over the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump whisked from the Capitol in an ambulance. Aides to Senator Patrick Leahy telling us the senator was not feeling well and after being examined by a doctor was taken to a local hospital for observation out of an abundance of caution. It came just hours after Leahy swore in his fellow lawmakers as jurors in the trial.
So help you God.
But right from the outset, it became clear there will likely not be enough votes to convict. Republican Senator Rand Paul forcing senators to vote on whether the trial itself is unconstitutional, since Trump is already out of office.
This is not a trial of the president, but of a private citizen.
Democrats and many legal experts insist the Constitution does not exempt former presidents from impeachment.
The theory that the Senate can't try former officials would amount to a constitutional get-out-of-jail-free card for any president who commits an impeachable offense.
Still today, nearly all the Republican senators, 45 of them, voted that the trial is unconstitutional. Just last week, Republican leader Mitch McConnell condemned Trump's words to the mob that stormed the Capitol.
The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people.
Mr. McConnell.
No.
But today, McConnell, too, voted that the impeachment trial should not proceed. In fact, only 5 Republican senators voted to move forward. And one of them, Susan Collins of Maine, later saying this.
I think it's pretty obvious from the vote today that it is extraordinarily unlikely that the president will be convicted. Just do the math.
Democrats need the support of 17 Republicans to convict Trump. And today's show of force, an early indicator that they just won't get there.
Right, that number 17 just seems elusive at this point. Rachel Scott joins us now from Washington. And Rachel, today's vote might show that there isn't enough Republican support to convict the former president, but the Democrats are pressing forward anyway.
They are, Lindsay, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says this is about holding Donald Trump accountable. He says that his actions cannot be swept under the rug, but this is going to be an uphill challenge for these House impeachment managers, and they will start making their case when the trial begins in earnest on February 9th, Lindsay.
Rachel Scott, thanks so much as always. Joining us now is Connecticut Democratic Senator Chris Murphy. Senator, thanks so much for your time tonight. We appreciate you joining us. Now, you, of course, were sworn in just a few hours ago in the second impeachment trial of now former President Donald Trump. You will act essentially as a juror, but also in some cases a victim. I mean, you and your colleagues were in the Capitol the day that rioters stormed the building. Tomorrow will be 3 weeks since that moment. Can you explain why you personally feel impeachment is necessary?
I don't think you can skip the accountability phase when you've had a president engaged in an attempted violent insurrection against the U.S. government. That's what happened here. Donald Trump knew what was likely to happen if he turned an angry mob on the United States Capitol. And in fact, many of us, escaped with our lives only because of the grace of God and the heroism of some of the law enforcement professionals that were there. We can't excuse that behavior. And though President Trump is already out of office, impeachment does come with a provision that disallows the president from running in the future. That's serious, it's consequential, and I think it's the only way to make clear to the country that everyone engaged in this attempted insurrection has to bear some consequences.
Now, as you know, some of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle say that impeaching a former president is unconstitutional. 45 Republicans voted as such on the Senate floor this afternoon. Since this is uncharted territory here, does it remain an open-ended question at this point? Do you believe that the law is, in fact, on your side here? And do you expect the former president will also challenge the legitimacy of the trial before it ever even gets underway?
Well, there's no doubt that it's uncharted territory. We've never tried a president after his term, but we have tried a cabinet official after his term of office was over. And the Constitution does make this specific provision through which impeachment disallows you from running in the future, which seems to suggest that it envisions impeachment occurring both during an official's term, but also afterwards. I understand that it is new territory. My feeling, though, is that Republicans who voted to essentially say the trial was unconstitutional, many of them were probably just trying to avoid having to deal with this trial on its merits and just be able to say that the trial shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Let's turn now to COVID relief and President Biden's nearly $2 trillion proposal. The president and his team have repeatedly said just how urgent the need is. No Republican senators have said that they support this plan just yet. Do you expect 10 Republicans to enter into good faith negotiations on this bill? And if not, at what point would Democrats decide, we've got to go this alone?
Well, any Republican who's spending time back in their state has to understand what a nightmare we are living in right now. There are folks going hungry. Schools don't have enough resources to keep the doors open safely. We have a vaccine distribution system that just simply isn't working to get shots in the arm fast enough. Unemployment compensation is running out in just about 8 weeks. We've got to act fast. I don't know whether we'll get 10 votes in the end, but we don't have the luxury of time. Let's work over the next 7 to 14 days to try to convince Republicans that the country gave Joe Biden a mandate to fix the broken COVID response to get our economy restarted again. But if 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, we don't have any Republican support and they're just focused on obstructing anything the president wants to do, then I think we have to go ahead and get this done.
At least 2 Democrats at this point have said that they would not support abolishing the legislative filibuster. A reminder for our viewers at home that the filibuster is the process that allows the minority party to stop legislation unless it has 60 votes. Now, former President Barack Obama has called it a Jim Crow relic. Republicans and Democrats alike have used it to their advantage over past years. If Democrats run into continued stonewalling from Republicans, do you think that your 2 colleagues may change their stance?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, listen, I've always thought the filibuster is a really curious relic. The American people decided to put Joe Biden in the White House and his party in charge of the House and the Senate. And the agenda we're pursuing is a pretty popular one. And so the idea that a minority of senators could stand in the way of really popular things getting done, I think is just fundamentally anti-democratic. The filibuster is not written into the Constitution. And so I think it probably is worthwhile for us to talk about at least reforming the filibuster. Republicans did that when they were in charge. They eliminated the filibuster for Supreme Court justices. Maybe we can have a conversation not of eliminating the filibuster, but on maybe broadening the number of or the kinds of pieces of legislation that pass by 50 votes instead of 60 votes. Maybe that's a conversation we can have down the line.
Lastly, I'd like to ask you about an issue that really hasn't been at the forefront of public debate recently, but one that you're very passionate about, gun control. You, of course, represent Connecticut. It's now been 8 years since 20 children and 6 adults were shot and killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School. There's been no real meaningful gun reform legislation since then. As you look ahead to the next 2 years of Democrat control in the Senate, what do you view as achievable if you need 10 Republicans to support the legislation?
Well, I believe that we can get 60 votes for a universal background checks proposal. It's supported by 95% of Americans. There's nothing in American politics today that gets 95% of support, but background checks does. I don't want to wait around for the next mass shooting in order to have this conversation. That's unfortunately how this issue tends to work, that Republicans, all of a sudden get interested in talking about background checks after 20 people are killed. Let's not wait this time. Let's sit down and see if we can forge a compromise. We actually came close in 2019. I worked directly with President Trump on language. We didn't get it ultimately to the floor because impeachment got in the way. But there, I think, are bipartisan votes for universal background checks. That'll save thousands of lives in this country if we do it. And I'm hopeful that we'll take it up, soon after these emergency COVID relief and economic packages are brought before the body.
All right, Senator Murphy, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you coming on the show.
Appreciate it.
Now to the increase in allegations of outrageous new fraud and other misconduct involving the COVID vaccines. And a paramedic now faces charges for allegedly hoarding doses and falsifying medical records to steal the vaccine. Our Matt Gutman has more on the latest cases and what's being done to stop the deception.
Tonight, that alarming warning from authorities, COVID-19 vaccine fraud and other misconduct on the rise. In Florida, paramedic Joshua Colon accused of hoarding doses, claiming a supervisor wanted them for his family. A tough-talking sheriff making an example of the pair.
What were you thinking? Did you only have 3 brain cells? I mean, how's that going to work?
Colon seen here winning the Paramedic of the Year award just weeks ago, now accused of stealing several doses of vaccine by allegedly concocting vaccination recipients.
He confessed. He said, I made all that up. It was all fraudulent. It was wrong.
He's being charged with multiple counts, including forgery and falsifying medical records. Authorities say they are now investigating whether the supervisor played any role as well. In Washington state, federal officials calling Johnny Stein a snake oil salesman for posing as a biotech expert, claiming to have a COVID vaccine and offering to inject patients for between $400 and $1,000 each. But the vaccine, claim officials, is untested, untried, and potentially unsafe. And tonight, a new hotline launched by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to crack down on vaccine deception.
You will see scam artists. And you will see fraud. I guarantee it.
And Lindsay, there's no shortages of scams. The Better Business Bureau is now warning of a scam that it's seeing across the country. Scammers allegedly calling unsuspecting people, purporting to try to help them set up their vaccinations. They're doing this by phone, email, social media. So they get people on the phone or social media. Then they ask them for personal information, identifying information. Then they move on to asking them for money as low as $150 a vaccine. And of course, they don't deliver. Better Business Bureau is warning people to stay away. If anybody's asking you to pay for a vaccine, it is not real. Lindsay.
Our thanks to Matt Gutman. Efforts today to address racial justice before signing 4 executive orders, including one that phases out federal use of some private prisons. The president had this to say.
I believe this nation and this government need to change their whole approach to the issue of racial equity.
All right, so to help us unpack what today's executive actions could accomplish, we bring in ABC's chief White House correspondent, Cecilia Vega. Thanks so much for joining us, Cecilia. So President Biden has directed his attorney general not to renew DOJ contracts with private criminal detention facilities. What's the impact of that? Well, I think it remains to be seen because the big picture, the reality check on this, Lindsay, is that we're talking about a very small population of all of the inmates that are housed in federal prisons. We're talking just about 10% of them. But you said it. The president has ordered the Department of Justice to essentially no longer renew contracts with these federal prisons, with these private prisons, rather. Also worth pointing out that another thing that this doesn't cover all of these undocumented immigrants, tens of thousands of them who are housed in private prisons that are run through ICE around the country. These are people who are now awaiting deportation. Criminal justice advocates, particularly during the Black Lives Matter protest that we saw this summer, were really pushing for prison reform. This falls short in that way for them, but the Biden administration does say there is much more to come. This is just the first step of many actions to come on racial equity in this country.
And also walk us through the other 3 orders that Biden signed today and what kind of effect those could have.
Well, these look like, at this point anyway, they're largely symbolic. So let me walk you through them. He's got one that is affirming tribal sovereignty for tribes around the country. He's got another one that is aimed at strengthening anti-discrimination housing policies. That's aimed basically at rolling back a Trump administration move. And there's another one that pushes to combat xenophobia against Asian Americans in the country. And of course, that is in the wake of all of the language that we saw after the COVID outbreak early last year. The president today invoked the name of George Floyd, Lindsay. He said that last year and George Floyd's killing marked a turning point when it came to racial justice in this country. He said it's time for the government to catch up with where the citizens of this country are when it comes to racial equity.
And even though this administration very much wants to push forward and not go back, I mean, really, you have to say that there's a big change of the tone, right? Because these are kind of issues that we would have never heard about racial equality and justice from the previous administration.
Yeah, and it really left, I think, a lot of people in this country, particularly people of color, hungry for even just the baseline conversation. So if activists and civil rights groups are wanting for more, there's very much a sense of praise and applaud coming from groups like the Urban League and the ACLU, who are very happy to see even just the basic steps being taken at this point. And they do acknowledge that this is an ongoing conversation and there's more work to come.
Cecilia Vega reporting in from the White House. Thanks so much. And when we come back, the CDC says they should be among the first vaccinated, but most states are saying not so fast. Our in-depth look at the controversy over prisoners getting vaccine priority. The tornado tearing through Alabama, trapping families in their homes with more extreme weather for millions on the way. And the apology over the Capitol mob riot and the request for National Guard troops 2 days earlier that was denied.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart they did this.
It's the time of suspicion.
The ending's really tough.
You don't know whether truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.
What kind of music do you want to make, Miss Franklin?
I want to make hits. I'm moving things forward for myself.
He's dragging you down.
You need me, Ree?
Hell, I do. Go get your respect.
The reality is our country can collapse from within.
You see the white power movement on the march. Klansmen and neo-Nazis, skinheads, it's meant to incite war.
From the KKK to Oklahoma City to Charlottesville, the new documentary event special.
We just need to start talking about race.
Homegrown Hate, The War Among Us.
This is a real wake-up call.
Streaming now on ABC News Live.
We will guide you through it all tonight. We have made it through another week together.
Big hug, Griffin.
We tell all our patients how much they are loved. We hold their hands.
David, we're showing our love and support for all the ICU staff.
They're the heroes in this.
There's nobody that has not been touched by this pandemic.
It's tough right now because, we're struggling.
We have serious demand issues. For the first time ever, we have to have each other's backs.
I see color.
Here we go.
We're all in this together, and we have to make this work.
Well done, Spurs.
This is all we got.
Wicked Tuna. New season Sunday, February 21st at 9 on National Geographic.
Take a look at this frightening scene. This is video of a Brooklyn firefighter responding to a house fire when an air conditioner falls on him from a window and hits him on the head, knocking him out. He is expected to recover. The video was given to investigators and the incident is being investigated. President Biden now to a group of people that have been getting some attention when it comes to the topic of vaccine. Inmates. The CDC says that inmates and those who work in correction facilities should be among the first vaccinated, a guideline that many states are choosing to ignore. Now there's a brewing public health debate about putting inmates at the top of the list when some say they should be last.
They literally leaving us in here to die,
This is Aaron Campbell, an inmate at FCI Elkton, a low-security federal prison in Ohio.
He on his deathbed.
Back in April, recording on a contraband phone, Campbell claimed the men in this video were showing signs of COVID.
Then they told me to stay 6 feet. Then they gave us these masks and literally said good luck.
Some of the country's worst coronavirus outbreaks have been in prisons. 356,000 inmates have tested positive for COVID-19, with more than 2,000 reported deaths, according to the Marshall Project. After taking this video, Campbell says he was put in solitary confinement for using that contraband phone. He told reporters that officials said he would not face additional punishment if he claimed the video was fake. He declined.
This ain't no joke. None of that. This is for real. It's me for real. You feel me? They out here dying, bro.
Now that Pfizer and Moderna have both authorized vaccines, many healthcare professionals and social justice advocates want to know when this vulnerable population will get theirs. Although CDC guidance put correction officers and inmates with frontline workers and people aged 75 and older at the same time or in the next phase to get vaccinated, states like Colorado have ignored that recommendation.
That won't happen. There's no way that prisoners are going to get it before members of the vulnerable population.
So far, only 8 states have given high priority to incarcerated people for the vaccine, with 10 states giving them no higher priority than the general population.
Vaccination is about not just hitting one population, but hitting those populations especially first that we know are most at risk. Of the 20 biggest clusters of COVID cases, 19 were in incarcerated settings. That is really frightening data to me. And we've seen that in those states where we see higher rates in incarcerated settings, we also see higher rates in those states themselves.
Inmates are one of the most vulnerable communities to COVID-19 infection, confined in close quarters that can be difficult to disinfect.
It's not like there is hand sanitizer everywhere, and sometimes people have to pay for soap.
The director of the Arkansas Department of Health claimed these outbreaks are isolated with no effect on their outside communities.
The fortunate thing about that kind of setting is that it's not that hard to contain it because people aren't going out and about. They're not leaving the prison.
Only people are going in and out of prisons and jails every day. An estimated 445,000 people work in U.S. correctional facilities, and more than 94,000 of them have tested positive for COVID-19.
So you have staff, which includes the correctional officers, maintenance crew, healthcare staff, anyone else working in custody. But then on top of that, you have attorneys and police officers who are coming in and out all the time. And then they're going out to the rest of the community.
But that's not the only way coronavirus can spread. Notoriously overcrowded, jails and prisons often transfer inmates as a way to alleviate their numbers, including potentially some with COVID. In late March, former Attorney General William Barr directed the Federal Bureau of Prisons to begin identifying inmates who could safely hopefully be released to home confinement. Among them, former Trump fixer Michael Cohen and Trump ally Paul Manafort, though they are the exception and not the rule. Many state officials are now up in arms over prison releases, expressing concern over what crimes fit under the nonviolent criteria in Barr's memo. In Texas, Governor Abbott issued an executive order barring the release of violent offenders, arguing that it would not only gravely threaten public safety, but would also hinder efforts to cope with the COVID-19 disaster. Since last spring, the prison and jail population dropped by 11%. But confusion over the conditions for release has left many high-risk inmates still incarcerated.
A lot of states have had 24-hour lockdowns. People are in 6x10 cells. Some people in bigger cells are sharing cells. That is breaking people in prison. That is doing long-term irreparable damage to the mental health, the physical health of those individuals.
Ashish Prashar is a social justice advocate who himself spent some time in the UK prison system as a teenager for theft.
The danger the virus poses means that even a minor offense or a minor accusation, so people who are in jails because they couldn't afford bail, could lead to getting locked up with a potential death sentence. You know, people have died without even being convicted of anything.
In Texas, 80% of inmates in jail who died of COVID-19 had not been convicted of a crime, according to a report by the University of Texas, Austin. California native Dante Westmoreland was on his way to visit colleges with friends when they were pulled over in Kansas for having a dirty license plate. Police found a pound of marijuana in the trunk of the car Dante was riding in. They ultimately charged him with possession and intent to distribute, and he was sentenced to 7 years in prison.
I was sentenced to serve nearly 8 years for a first-time marijuana offense with no criminal history.
Although his conviction was later thrown out, for the nearly 4 years he spent in prison, not only did his grandmother die, forcing his two brothers into the foster care system, but he also contracted COVID-19.
So as I'm sitting back with the virus and I say, what do I do next? What's the future for me? It's like I'm on death row minimum.
Now, some individuals who either not had the experience of working in corrections or having someone close to them be incarcerated would think, well, these individuals have done something wrong, and so why should they be the priority? But in reality, you don't know who's done something wrong, and because they've done something wrong, does that mean that they get a second sentence?
Melissa Love's sister, diabetic 61-year-old Darlene Lulu Benson Say, was the first female prisoner to die of COVID-19 in the state of New York. Lulu began emailing her sister around the beginning of the first wave back in March. Once she contracted the virus, her roommate then stepped in and began emailing updates to Melissa. Although they have since been deleted from Bedford Hill's database, Melissa had taken screenshots to document what her older sister had gone through.
Sometimes I wonder, like, you know, did they have a plan of action for the people in prison? Because they are so vulnerable to this disease.
Lulu died alone, the prison not allowing her to video chat her family without prior approval.
You know, and it's just really sad that we one day hope that she will come home, you know, and we could start this new life, and we had all these plans of what we were going to do. You know, she loved to eat barbecue. Of course she was having a big barbecue party, you know, but that didn't happen.
Still ahead here on Prime, the family torn apart after the Capitol mob riot, the call one teen made about his own dad. The new COVID travel restrictions for anyone returning to the U.S. from abroad, what you need to know. And we're starting to see some positive impacts from the COVID vaccines. We take a look by the numbers. But first, our tweet of the day. The Lakers remember NBA icon Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna, killed along with 7 others in a helicopter tragedy 1 year ago today. A special tribute to Bryant will be right after Prime tonight.
This is what being live is all about.
Now, I can see
This is ABC News Live, the 24/7 streaming news source, ABC News. Wow. Breaking news, live events, as they happen, streaming live, non-stop, straight to you. Original, on the edge, breakthrough storytelling. From ABC News, National Geographic, ESPN, all designed differently for you to stream straight to any screen whenever you want, free. And imagine the most celebrated, epic live events and moments, all playing out right before your eyes.
See those flames behind me?
And go deeper inside the groundbreaking exclusives from the campaign trail only ABC News gets. Watch ABC News Live right now and anytime. Streaming on Roku, Hulu, Facebook, and abcnews.com.
ABC News Live.
Streaming everywhere, right to you.
ABC News Live.
We will guide you through it all tonight. We have made it through another week together.
Big hug, Griffin.
We tell all our patients how much they're loved. We hold their hands.
David, we're showing our love and support for all the ICU staff.
They're the heroes in this.
Yes, mornings may look different these days, but where you start your day,
where you spend your mornings, where you get connected to everything that's happening.
And face it, there's a whole lot happening in our world these days.
Where you get all the breaking new information of the day to help you navigate through these times.
That's why we're here.
Good morning, sunshine.
And making sure you start your day off with a smile and some sunshine.
Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
Good morning, America. Oh, how I love saying that.
Wake me up.
The world may feel out of your control, but your happiness doesn't have to be. Learn the secrets to happiness. Listen to the 10% Happier podcast, free on Apple Podcasts.
ABC News honored winner for the second straight year with the Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence in Television. ABC News, America's #1 news source.
This is GMA3, what you need to know. GMA3.
A third hour of Good Morning America in the afternoon.
It's all about you. Lunchtime on ABC.
Welcome back, everybody. And now to some positive news, some much needed positive news about the real world impact of COVID-19 vaccinations, even in this early phase. Here's a look by the numbers. 5.6%. That's the current COVID-19 positivity rate of the Los Angeles County Fire Department, a dramatic drop from the 18% positivity rate just last month. Now, that's after 75% of the county's firefighters, over 3,000 people, got a first vaccine dose. And let's look at Israel, where more than 40% of the population has received at least one dose of the Pfizer vaccine, making it somewhat of an international test case. The country's COVID-19 hospitalizations dropped 60% among people over 60 years old 2 days after the second shot, according to initial findings by a leading Israeli healthcare provider. And more than a week after getting a second dose, only 0.01% of vaccinated Israelis contracted COVID. And while these preliminary results are indeed promising, experts say we'll need to vaccinate 70 to 90% of our population to achieve the herd immunity that we're hoping for. And still lots to get to tonight here on Prime. The fierce clashes on streets across the Netherlands after a COVID curfew was imposed. The major internet outage affecting millions along the East Coast. What caused it? And the ways the fitness industry has fought to stay alive and thrive during this pandemic. But first, a look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
The reality is our country can collapse from within.
You see the white power movement on the march. Klansmen and neo-Nazis, skinheads, it's meant to incite war.
From the KKK to Oklahoma City to Charlottesville, the new documentary event special.
We just need to start talking about race.
Homegrown Hate, The War Among Us.
This is a real wake-up call.
Streaming now on ABC News Live.
We will guide you through it all tonight. We have made it through another week together.
Big hug, Griffin.
We tell all our patients how much they're loved. We hold their hands.
David, we're showing our love and support for all the ICU staff.
They're the heroes in this.
There's nobody that has not been touched by this pandemic.
It's tough right now because, we're struggling.
We have serious demand issues. For the first time ever, we have to have each other's backs.
I see color. Here we go. We're all in this together, and we have to make this work.
Well done, Spurs.
This is all we got.
Wicked Tuna. New season Sunday, February 21st at 9 on National Geographic.
Yes, mornings may look different these days, but where you start your day,
where you spend your mornings, where you get connected to everything that's happening.
And face it, there's a whole lot happening in our world these days.
Where you get all the breaking new information of the day to help you navigate through these times.
That's why we're here.
Good morning, sunshine.
And making sure you start your day off with a smile and some sunshine.
Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
Good morning, America. Oh, how I love saying that.
Wake me up.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
Friday nights, 9/8 Central. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime. 2020. Friday nights, 9/8 Central on ABC.
In Alabama, cleanup is beginning following a deadly tornado that ripped through an area near Birmingham.
One person was killed and at least 30 others injured. The fatality was a teenager who was sheltering in his basement with his family when that twister blew a tree right onto their home. The tornado carved a 10-mile-long path of destruction, tearing apart numerous buildings, including a Hampton Inns hotel, leaving guests terrified.
We knew we had to get going.
Yeah.
We're in the bathroom for a little bit, and then we felt things shaking a little bit, praying, like, Jesus, keep us safe, keep everybody safe, and lights going off.
Weather Service says, according to preliminary findings, the tornado was at least a EF2 with 135 miles per hour winds.
We met Brittany Weiss, who rode out the storm with her 2-month-old daughter, Hallie, and other relatives in a bathtub.
Got them up, went to the bathroom, and the dogs didn't even make it through the door before the tornado hit.
Oh, so it was that quick?
It was that quick.
Just down the street, Michael Holloway survived in his hallway.
With me being as big of a guy as I am, I got into as small of a ball as I could, and I prayed.
The severe weather, one of several storms hitting the country this week. A separate system to blame for this pileup on I-25 in Colorado. 6 people were hurt.
Today, an apology from the acting chief of Capitol Police.
Acting Chief Yogananda Pittman told Congress the Capitol Police Department should have been more prepared for the January 6th attack.
Pittman said, quote, "Let me be clear. The department should have been more prepared for this attack. And we knew that there was a strong potential for violence and that Congress was the target." Pittman also confirmed the Capitol Police Board rejected a request from the former police chief for National Guard troops.
An early legal blow to President Biden's immigration plans. A federal judge in Texas today temporarily blocked a 100-day pause on deportations that took effect on Friday. The judge, a Trump appointee, issued a restraining order that blocks the policy nationwide for 14 days following a legal challenge by Texas. Mr. Biden had promised to pause most deportations for 100 days during his campaign. His administration is expected to appeal the ruling.
Senator Patrick Leahy has been hospitalized out of an abundance of caution. A spokesman said the 80-year-old wasn't feeling well. As the longest-serving Democratic senator, he was expected to preside over former President Trump's upcoming impeachment trial. If the senator from Vermont is unable to carry out his duty, Senator Dianne Feinstein is technically the next most senior Democrat. Tonight, Senator Leahy is under observation at a local hospital.
Well, folks along the East Coast are facing widespread internet outages today. Service disruptions from Washington, D.C. to Boston were first reported around 11 o'clock this morning. That's because Verizon recently cut a fiber in Brooklyn, but it's unclear if that touched off the multi-state outages. No other internet service provider has pinpointed a network issue. The region impacted includes key U.S. government services and major financial institutions. Utility crews are still working to restore all the service.
Welcome back. A Texas teen is now speaking out about why he tipped off the FBI about his father, who now faces federal charges connected to the Capitol mob riot. ABC's TJ Holmes has more now on the family torn apart because of the insurrection.
He was all over the news. You could see him, his blue coat, his helmet, his GoPro, his bulletproof vest. It was all there.
The man in the blue coat is Guy Reffitt, caught on camera taking part in the siege at the Capitol. And while Reffitt was there, his son, 18-year-old Jackson, says he was receiving real-time text updates from his dad.
What kinds of things was he saying? What was his tone to you?
He was enthusiastic. He was through the roof.
Wow.
Yeah. It was pretty surreal to hear him talk, like as if this was something that is going to save our family.
But Jackson says the opposite happened, and his family has been torn apart. According to FBI documents, after Reffitt returned from the siege, he allegedly told his wife and children, "If you turn me in, you're a traitor, and you know what happens to traitors. Traitors get shot."
Did you think your dad would hurt you, even kill you?
No. I think the way he's been manipulated into thinking by these extremist groups and what's been fed to him was worrying enough that I don't know what he was going to do next.
Guy Reffitt was arrested and is facing federal charges related to that insurrection at the Capitol. Jackson is now in hiding, cutting ties with his family, who are upset with him, he says, after he called the FBI tip line weeks before the Capitol siege to alert them about his dad.
I have all these people telling me that it's my dad's decision. He did what he did, but that I still feel responsible.
The FBI would not confirm the tip line call from Jackson, but Reffitt's wife told investigators he's part of a group called the 3 Percenters, a far-right militia group, according to the affidavit. Reffitt's wife, Nicole, tells ABC News Guy is a loving husband, devoted father, loyal friend, and passionate patriot, adding, "It saddens me that during this political climate, we can't communicate and agree to disagree without a fight."
At first, it was talking down to anyone against his opinion. For example, he would say that liberals wouldn't survive in this world. I didn't know what he was doing online, but I've heard what he's been talking about. He's been hyping something up. I had no idea what it was. And I'd rather contact authorities than know what was going to happen.
What's most important is that young people or anyone who's concerned about a loved one talk to someone that they trust, talk to someone who is on their side and is going to help them work this through.
Why be public about it?
Because I want people to know how awful this political strain can be on certain people. And I feel like I should have to have the voice to tell people that it's okay to come forward. Your moral compass is going to be absolutely just the right thing to do.
Now in hiding from his own family. Our thanks to TJ for that. Turning now overseas, Dutch police are out in force after another night of riots due to the nationwide COVID curfew. Nearly 200 have been taken into custody in clashes across the Netherlands. Police have been hit with rocks, fireworks, and Molotov cocktails. The riots are largely organized on social media and stem from a curfew that was set from 9 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. each day until February 10th. Dutch leaders are trying to control the spread of COVID, especially the UK strain. As of today, a new CDC guideline for travelers officially went into effect. The new rule requires anyone traveling into the United States from a foreign country provides proof of a negative COVID-19 test or a document demonstrating that you have recovered from COVID-19 in order to enter the country. Now, what impact could this possibly have on travel for those who feel that they need to just get away in 2021? Well, joining us now is the founder and CEO of The Points Guy, Brian Kelly. Brian, thanks so much for being with us. First off, how can Americans who are abroad identify somewhere that is safe and reliable to get a COVID test? And what are their options if they do test positive?
So that's the million-dollar question right now. Some countries are better than others in terms of available testing, but we just saw today Hyatt Hotels is now offering it as a benefit in Latin America. So we expect to see more hotels, especially in the Caribbean, that depend on this winter tourism to survive, to be able to operate to guests. Now, if you do happen to get COVID abroad, it's up to you. Unless you get a travel insurance that will cover COVID, those policies are few and far between. But in certain places like the Bahamas, they actually make you get that insurance. So if you've never had travel insurance before, now's the time.
So do you think that traveling right now is safe? And what countries are actually even accepting U.S. travelers?
Well, interestingly, if you're going to travel, I personally feel safer traveling abroad where mask wearing is much more accepted than in many parts of the U.S. and COVID numbers are much lower in most every other country. So if you wear a mask and practice social distancing, don't go to crowds, you can travel safely. But, with these new rules and potentially getting stuck abroad, the CDC actually just came out with guidance really pushing back on any non-essential international travel.
Which airlines are still taking those COVID safety precautions, like providing testing and blocking a middle seat?
The clear winner in airlines throughout this pandemic has been Delta. They are still blocking middle seats and even in first class. Most of the major airlines are now teaming up with labs to provide testing, especially to destinations like Hawaii that have been requiring COVID tests. But it's still every traveler for themselves in a lot of different ways. Even if you get stuck abroad, your airline's not going to cover your hotel for that. It's all up to you.
And I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of a thought that you already shared, because it sounds like you are an advocate for getting that travel insurance. Is that even though many U.S. airlines have actually suspended the change fees and cancellation fees?
Yeah, the whole point of COVID insurance, it's not about the flight. Flights are pretty cheap these days. It's about 14 days of hotel in a foreign country, plus food, medical costs. It can really, really add up. So, if you're offered insurance or if there's a policy that covers any COVID-related expense, I would highly recommend looking into it.
Do they, though? Because it seems like it's like you have to have like a doctor's note, a funeral. They're like very specific explanations quite often for those traveler insurance. I mean, is COVID often included at this point?
In most policies, COVID isn't included, but now that so many people are traveling and potentially getting quarantined abroad, there are policies that will cover COVID. Like I said, in the Bahamas, they mandate it for any tourists to come just in case it happens. They don't want your problem to be the government's, cost. So more and more countries will be mandating it and providing options for travelers to purchase it before they enter the country.
They don't want your problem to become their problem. Makes sense. All right, lastly, we'll ask you to take a look in your crystal ball and tell us, what are your big predictions for travel in 2021, and what should people be paying extra special attention to?
Yeah, travel will bounce back in 2021. We already see COVID coming down, vaccines going up. So I do foresee a large population of people who are vaccinated and feel confident traveling, even though there are still risks with COVID, traveling this summer. But the real kind of roaring 20s, big bang revenge travel will happen, I think, summer of 2022, when likely Europe will be back open again. Still TBD this summer, but I foresee a lot more camping and RV trips, just like last summer, going on in the U.S. The good thing is the airlines and most hotels now have flexible cancellation or rebooking. So you can book for summer 2020, and worst case, if you can't go, you can always get a voucher. Or if you use your frequent flyer miles, they'll refund them to you.
Are you traveling right now, or you're home?
I just took an incredible trip to Rwanda in December. I'm staying low for a little while, but I've had some of my best trips during the pandemic, but I've practiced tons of different safety precautions and getting tested even when I come home, and I recommend everyone else do the same.
Good to know. Okay, Brian Kelly, thanks so much. As always, the Points Guy, appreciate you talking to us.
Thanks, everyone.
And when we come back, survival of the fittest, how the business of working out has become an exercise unto itself.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live, the 24/7 streaming news source from ABC News. Breaking news, live events, streaming nonstop. Original breakthrough storytelling from ABC News, National Geographic, ESPN, and it's all designed differently for you to stream straight to any screen whenever you want.
ABC News Live.
Streaming everywhere, right to you. ABC News Live. It's that easy to go there.
We will guide you through it all tonight. We have made it through another week together.
Big hug,
We tell all our patients how much they are loved. We hold their hands.
David, we're showing our love and support for all the ICU staff.
They're the heroes in this.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
Admit it, these days, what you need to know
Seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know,
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it? Feel smarter,
feel better.
feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America in the afternoon?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Lunchtime at 1 Eastern, 12 Central and Pacific on ABC. It's all about you.
What kind of music do you want to make, Miss Franklin?
I want to make hits. I'm moving things forward for myself.
He's dragging you down. You need me, Ree?
Hell, I do.
Go get your respect.
The world may feel out of your control, but your happiness doesn't have to be. Learn the secrets to happiness. Listen to the 10% Happier podcast, free on Apple Podcasts.
With today's extraordinary news cycle,
Now is the perfect time for ABC News Live.
Of course, January is the month known for resolutions, especially when it comes to working out. But like many industries, gyms across the country have suffered from COVID-19 closures, forcing many in the fitness world to adapt in order to keep business in tip-top shape. Our Will Carr reports.
Every day, Jacob Geis gets one heck of a workout.
We get here at 5 a.m. and we start to move out and set up for the workouts for the day.
Much of Southern California is shut down due to COVID. Geis has moved his indoor gym outside. As a result, the staff at Body Fit Training in Santa Monica has to haul 6,000 pounds of weight outside every day.
All right, guys, working hard. We've got a wide variety of equipment, but we really enjoy this. It keeps us more active.
The result, outdoor classes that focus on high-intensity training in a physically safe environment.
We keep everyone 8 feet apart. We have masks required during the workouts, sanitizing everything all the time to really keep people safe. And we think of ourselves as the solution, proactive healthcare. We'll go 6, Hannah. And so part of that is going to be good fitness.
So 6.
But not everyone is as lucky as Southern California when it comes to weather. Some gyms in New York are braving the elements, rain, cold, even snow, to keep classes going, all during a period when New Year's resolutions normally give gyms across the country a 12% bump in new members. But this new year is far from normal. Many gyms have closed their doors, some for good. Others have filed for bankruptcy. Investors are estimating that the pandemic could cost the fitness industry upwards of $10 billion in lost sales.
So all of a sudden you have no revenue coming in. You have all those expenses there, the rent expenses there, even when you close. And that's how they got into, it's a huge shock for these companies.
To survive, many fitness companies have pivoted online.
I'm the co-founder of SkyTang, which is a New York City-based, was a brick and mortar yoga studio, and now we are an online yoga platform.
Chrissy Jones is making the adjustment, shifting her yoga classes into virtual studios.
The biggest challenge was letting go of our leases and the idea that we're not going to be teaching in community and real life anytime soon. At first, it was a real shock and a huge change in my life. I didn't sign up to be a yoga teacher to do this on camera, but now this is the reality we're living in.
And she's certainly not alone. Many Americans Americans, including Jenna Vanderwright, have been forced out of their gyms at some point during the pandemic.
I don't know if I would go back to doing something that I was doing prior, or even going to public gyms. You know, there's something about just feeling safe in the comfort of your own home, where there's no germs around, where you don't know who's working out next to you, if they're masked or not.
With her gym closed, Vanderwright splurged on a Peloton bike and membership.
Let's go, Peloton! Welcome to your 30-minute full body strength.
It's something that I love having in not only the comfort of my own home, but I can work my workouts around my schedule.
At the beginning of the pandemic, I found Maddie Limburner, better known as MadFit, on YouTube. Pre-pandemic, she had 1 million followers. Now I'm one of more than 5 million people who subscribe to her free workouts.
Years ago, I thought, and I knew home workouts are the future. This is going to save people time. It's going to save people money. And I think a lot of people are now, they're forced into it, and they've realized, hey, I can do this and I can get fit at home.
Each workout is fast and doesn't require any equipment or experience.
I've seen people from the ages of 5, they're doing my dance routines, just jumping around in the house with their mom and dad, to 50, 60-year-olds doing my workouts. So it's really cool to see that I'm able to reach a wide age range.
So left for 7 and left for 8.
Back in California, Geis is focused on helping people reach their New Year's goals in person. He just launched a kettlebell class on the Santa Monica Pier and believes his shift outside is here for the long haul.
The biggest key in my experience is to not get down and quit. If you have a will and you're willing to work hard, there's going to be a solution out there that allows you to continue to grow and help people.
In Los Angeles, Will Carr, ABC News.
Straighten that wrist up a little bit.
Feeling like I need to get up and stretch or work out? Here are thanks to Will for that. Before we go tonight, the image of the day. Concert goers rocking out to the Flaming Lips in Oklahoma. Everyone climbed inside their own space-age looking bubbles, which were inflated by leaf blowers. The Flaming Lips have actually been using giant bubbles in their shows for years. The pandemic somehow making it all seem a little less unusual. That is our show for this hour. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us, and have a good night.